Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The throne room shimmered beneath solid gold chandeliers, each reflection accentuating the palace's intimidating splendor. The royal guards, immaculate in their ceremonial uniforms, stood as straight as statues, ready to obey the slightest command. The few visitors murmured respectfully, impressed by the military discipline that reigned here. In the midst of this rigid atmosphere, Ariel Johnson, a young black woman in her 20s, stood discreetly in the shadows. Her sharp gaze observed every movement of the guards, her fingers nervously gripping the fabric of her dress. Ariel wasn't there to admire the palace, she had a mission. With an almost imperceptible gesture, she made a secret signal, a sign agreed upon for years with the royal guard. A pressure on the sleeve, a barely visible hand movement, and this simple gesture immediately broke protocol. The highest-ranking officer of the guard, Captain Elias Harding, instinctively stepped back from his strict posture and darted forward in a forbidden movement, crossing an invisible line that should never have been crossed. The murmur of the courtiers died away. Time seemed to stand still. No verbal order had been given, and yet the chain of command had just been broken. All eyes turned to Ariel, but she remained motionless, her eyes sparkling with defiance and determination. Captain Harding, although obeying the secret signal, knew he had just exposed himself to the king's wrath. But he did not hesitate. The urgency of the situation superseded all protocol. At that precise moment, an invisible storm was brewing. A silent gesture had just disrupted the age-old order of the palace, and no one, not even the king, could have foreseen the shockwave that would follow. Captain Elias Harding had always been the epitome of discipline. Every order executed to the letter, every gesture calculated, every word measured. Yet today, something unexpected had just happened. Ariel Johnson's mere signal had triggered in him a reaction faster than reason, an act of disobedience that would shatter his career and the balance of the palace. Ariel, for her part, advanced cautiously, her gaze scanning every corner of the great hall. She knew the palace rules perfectly, the strict protocols that governed every gesture. But she also knew that a moment of silence could save lives. Her gesture was no accident, it was a coded cry for help, intended solely for Captain Harding. "Captain," she murmured, barely audible. Harding did not reply. He had already crossed the line, his boots striking the marble floor in a forbidden rhythm, his eyes fixed on a point invisible to all others. The courtiers and other guards, frozen in place, did not understand what was happening. A murmur of disbelief rippled through the room. How dare he? But Harding didn't hesitate. His loyalty to the king was absolute, certainly, but his loyalty to Ariel's life and the secret she carried was stronger. He knew he couldn't wait for orders. Suddenly, a sharp noise rang out. The king entered the room, his impassive face barely concealing his surprise. "Captain Harding," he thundered, his voice icy. "Why did you break protocol?" Harding stood straight, his gaze fixed on Ariel. "Your Majesty." "I had no choice," he replied calmly, but with a new authority that silenced the room. Ariel felt her heart race. She knew the king wouldn't tolerate this kind of disobedience. Yet, she saw in Harding's eyes a determination she'd never seen before. For the first time, a palace guard was risking his life to protect a secret unknown to others. The murmur of the courtiers turned into an oppressive silence. Everyone was waiting to see how the king would react to this silent affront. And in that silence, Ariel understood that her life, the captain's life, and the fate of many others had just changed forever. The throne room remained frozen in a heavy silence. The courtiers held their breath, watching Ariel and Captain Harding's every move. The king, seated on his golden throne, narrowed his eyes, trying to comprehend the audacity that had just shattered centuries of protocol. Ariel took a deep breath. She knew it was time to reveal part of the truth, but only what she could afford to. "Your Majesty," she began, her voice firm despite her stage fright. "I am here because..." A shiver ran through the room. Never before had a simple citizen, and even less a young black woman, dared to address the king directly in this way. Silence, ordered the king, his voice icy. Explain this action immediately. Ariel exchanged a quick glance with Harding. The captain nodded, silent but present, ready to support her gesture. This signal, she continued, is a cry for help. An urgent warning. A threat hangs over the royal family. A murmur of unease rippled through the room. The guard straightened, worried. The tension was palpable. A threat against the monarchy was a crime the palace had never taken lightly. A threat, repeated the king, his voice betraying for the first time a trace of fear. Who dares threaten my palace? Ariel felt their eyes on her, heavy and full of suspicion. But she wasn't afraid. She knew exactly what she was doing and why. I can't reveal everything, not yet, she said. But I know an attack is imminent. If Captain Harding hadn't responded to my signal, she paused, her eyes fixed on the king. The palace would have been lost. The king sat up slightly on his throne. His gaze softened, a mixture of mistrust and respect. He would never have believed that a mere young woman could possess information capable of jeopardizing the security of the kingdom. Harding then stepped forward, breaking the silence. Your Majesty, I take responsibility for my actions. The protocol is clear, but I judged the risk to be greater. The king stared at him, torn between anger and admiration. Harding's loyalty, intelligence, and courage had just been revealed in all their glory. But before anyone could react, a panting messenger burst into the room. Your Majesty, he cried. Suspicious movements have been detected at the north and east gates of the palace. The murmur turned into silent panic. Ariel felt a surge of adrenaline. The moment she had sensed had arrived. The signal wasn't just a warning, it was the beginning of a countdown. The king finally stood up, striking the arm of his throne. Prepare the defense. And no one is to leave this room. Ariel then understood that the game had just changed. Her secret signal had triggered a series of events that would test the courage, loyalty, and cunning of everyone present in the palace. The sun was sinking towards the horizon, casting red and gold shadows through the vast windows of the palace. But inside, the atmosphere was icy. The murmurs had given way to palpable tension. The guards, once stoic, stood ready, their hands gripping their weapons tightly. Ariel stood slightly back, but every muscle in her body was tense. The signal she had sent was not merely a warning, it was a tactical maneuver, designed to prepare the palace before the attack actually began. Captain Harding, she murmured, they won't come in an obvious way, it will be subtle, insidious. Harding nodded, his eyes scanning the room. He had known Ariel for years, and he had learned to trust her even in the most impossible situations. A sudden cry rang out at the north gates, a guard was yelling, panic in his voice. Intruders! Masked figures, they're trying to force their way in. The king, standing on his throne, struck the golden arm forcefully. To your posts. Defend the palace. The guards rushed forward, weapons drawn. Ariel, guided by an almost supernatural intuition, slipped silently towards the side passages. She knew the real threat wouldn't be where everyone was looking. In the shadows of a corridor, she glimpsed figures dressed in black, their movements swift and precise. The attack wasn't a brute force operation, it was an infiltration. Every step, every breath was calculated to sow confusion and fear. They are trying to divert the king's attention, Ariel whispered to Harding with a coded gesture. The captain understood immediately. Instead of rushing towards the north gates where most of the guards were concentrated, he turned around and took a more discreet route, following Ariel. Together, they formed a silent but formidable duo, ready to stop the intruder before he reached the throne room. Suddenly, there was a metallic clang, a key or some ancient artifact fell to the floor. Ariel crouched down, grasping the object. In her hand, an engraved symbol revealed the enemy's identity, a secret faction within the court itself, ready to overthrow the king. It's worse than I thought. She murmured. They've been here for months, and nobody knew. Harding frowned, his jaw clenched. So our only chance is to strike quickly and silently. If we fail, Ariel finished the sentence for him. The palace falls. And the kingdom with it. Their eyes met. In that tense silence, a tacit alliance was formed. No protocol, no rule, no hesitation could stop them now. Outside, the wind was blowing hard, as if to warn that the storm was not just metaphorical. The assault was about to begin. The corridor was plunged into darkness, pierced only by the flickering light of the wall torches. Each step of Ariel and Captain Harding barely echoed on the marble, but in this heavy silence, every sound was amplified, every breath counted. "They're here," Ariel murmured, her eyes fixed on a half-open door. Inside, masked figures were handling parchments and ancient objects, clearly searching for something precious. Harding signaled to the guards to stay back and approached slowly, the dagger clutched in his hand. Ariel, guided by her instinct, chose another angle, ready to intercept any attempt to escape. Suddenly, one of the intruders raised his head and their silhouette froze. Ariel recognized the symbol engraved on the object she had found, the secret mark of a dissident faction of the court, ready to overthrow the king and take control of the kingdom by cunning rather than brute force. "Harding, they're closer than we thought. And they know the secret layout of the palace." The captain nodded, his teeth clenched. "So we can't afford to make a mistake." With a coordinated movement, Ariel and Harding appeared almost simultaneously. The intruders, taken by surprise, tried to fight back, but the precision and speed of the two allies were disconcerting. Ariel disarmed one man in a fluid motion while Harding neutralized another. "Who sent you?" Ariel shouted, grabbing the faction leader. But the man did not reply. His icy gaze was filled with defiance, and in his silence could be read a secret that Ariel sensed was imminent. A muffled explosion echoed through the palace, and the torches flickered. The enemy faction had a plan B, a trigger to sow panic and cover their escape. "We must reach the throne room," Harding ordered. "If they take control of that room, all will be lost." As she ran through the corridors, Ariel sensed a strange presence, as if someone in the palace knew everything she was doing. Her eyes widened. Behind a curtain, a figure was watching, invisible to everyone else. "They have a spy," she murmured. "And this spy knows your movements," Harding replied. "But we're going to stop him." The duo set off, ready to protect the king, outwit the enemy faction, and finally discover who within the court had betrayed royalty. The fate of the palace, and perhaps the entire kingdom, now rested on their courage, intelligence, and speed. And Ariel knew that the real challenge had only just begun. The throne room was now the scene of silent chaos. Torches flickered, casting dancing shadows on the gold and marble walls. The enemy faction, led by traitors who had infiltrated the very heart of the court, was preparing to strike. Every second counted. Ariel and Captain Harding arrived through a secret passage, their breathing quick but controlled. Before them, the intruders were preparing to force their way onto the throne, believing the king would be vulnerable. But they had underestimated Ariel's determination and the captain's ingenuity. "Here," Ariel murmured, pointing to the levers hidden behind a pillar. "If we activate these mechanisms, we can trap their exits and isolate the group." Harding nodded, and together they put their plan into action. Chains snapped shut with a metallic crunch, trapping the intruders in a maze of suddenly blocked corridors. Panic was etched on their masked faces. The faction leader, the one wearing the engraved symbol discovered by Ariel, tried to flee. Ariel leaped forward, grabbing him by the shoulder. "It's over," she said, her gaze burning with determination. The king, witnessing the scene from his throne, rose slowly. For the first time, he gazed at Ariel, then at Harding, with a mixture of admiration and respect. "You have saved the palace and the crown," he declared in a loud voice that silenced the entire room. "You have shown that courage and intelligence can overcome all protocols." The traitors were arrested, their plans exposed, and the palace's security restored. But Ariel knew that the most difficult task was not only neutralizing the threat, she now had to reveal the truth about the infiltration within the court without causing further divisions. Harding placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You did more than your duty, Ariel. Without you, everything would have been lost. Ariel smiled faintly, aware that the kingdom had just changed thanks to a simple secret signal, a discreet but decisive gesture. She had shown that sometimes, rules can be broken to protect what matters most, and that the courage of one person could reverse the course of history. The king, now calm, uttered one last word. May the loyalty, courage, and vigilance you have shown today serve as an example to all. And as the throne room returned to its solemn silence, Ariel and Harding exchanged a glance. The storm had passed, but adventure, intelligence, and bravery had now left their indelible mark on the palace.